Are you ready? Jeffrey, you are 42. 42 is crazy. Okay, so it's time to talk about the number 42 for your 42nd birthday. I've got, well, let's just start over here. 42 is a pretty interesting number if you are going to do it in binary base 2 because it's 10101. 0. It's 32 plus 8 plus 2. Um, it is curious to me because it happens to be right in between two what they call twin primes. And in fact, they're my favorite twin primes, 41 and 43. If you break 42 down into its prime factors, it's 2 times 3 times 7. It is also what is called in math a pronic number, which just means that it is a number multiplied by the next number. So 42 is 6 times 7. Now, also in the mathematical category, let me tell you about one that's come up fairly recently. It has to do with computers and large numbers and that kind of stuff. So there's been this search ever since, what was it, 1954, that's before either of us were born, of searching all the numbers below 100 to see if they could be expressed as the sum of 3 cubes. Like 3 is 1 cubed plus 1 cubed plus 1 cubed. They don't have to be unique numbers. They just want to know if there's a way to write a number as the sum of 3 cubes. Okay, well, some of them under 100 are just not possible, and they've found those things out. But in recent years, they've used really large computers and lots of computers to search for all of them. And they got it down to about a list of 3 within the last 10 years. And I think in like 3 or 4 years ago, 33 was discovered to have an answer. But the last one, under 100, that was determined whether to not have an answer or to have an answer, was 42. 42 does have a way of doing it, and that is this right here. Negative this number cubed plus this 13, 14-digit number cubed plus this number cubed equals 42. You can check it on your phone, but I don't know if your phone will be able to do numbers that big. There you go. That's pretty cool, and it was a fairly recent discovery, and there are only 10 more numbers like this that they don't know if you can write it as the sum of 3 cubes under 1,000. So it's a very rare thing, but 42 is the last one to be discovered as having a solution. They figured it out, that it does have a solution. They figured out what their solution was. That's pretty cool. Okay, some other mathematical things. I usually make you something. I've been getting ready for math camp, so this one might not actually make it into an actual shape, but it's called a Johnson solid. And this is Johnson solid 42, an elongated pentagonal ortho birotunda. And so it kind of looks like the ones that you've got over the couple of last few years, but this one is more, it's not lumpy, it's not like bigger on one side than it is on the other. I actually think this one is fairly elegant, don't you? So I'm probably not gonna color it. I've been coloring hexagons for the last couple of days. Oh my goodness. All right, here talk about one that is a mathy thing, but it's also a soccer thing, which of course I really like. I'm wearing one of my Liverpool shirts here, and I got my Liverpool road sign over here. But World Cup is coming up. It's actually usually in the summer, but this year it's going to be in the winter because it's in Qatar, and it's kind of hot there, so they don't want to kill the northern latitude people. So it's coming up, and when you qualify for the World Cup, they put you, your team, your country, in groups of 4. And for instance, this is Group B in the FIFA World Cup coming up. England, Wales, U.S., and Iran. And I don't know how this ended up happening that 3 English-speaking countries all got on there in the same time. England and the U.S. were together in the same group a couple of World Cups ago, and I don't think maybe the U.S. squeaked in, but I know that England didn't that year. Anyway, you can either win, you can lose, or you can draw. And every team plays every other team. And then after that, then you get 3 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, and 0 points for a loss. And so all the possible ways of winning, losing, and drawing of 4 teams in a group at the World Cup is, guess. No, you don't have to guess because this is a video about 42, right? 42 ways. I think that's pretty cool. I'm always wondering, like, I did wonder this the last time, like how many different ways is this? And after each game, you kind of figure out that the number of things gets a lot slimmer for who can get first, second, and third, and fourth. But only first 2 really count. Okay, one related to I think I want to say that Euler did some work on this, but I know that there's another guy, an Indian mathematician that I mentioned before, Ramanujan. And he was really interested in a thing called partitioning. And it is exactly what it sounds like chopping up something. So if you were to take the number 10, and you want to chop it up and figure out all the different ways that you could add up numbers to get to 10. You could have, 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. You have 10 of those. Or you can do like 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus, and then have, 8 of these and 1 of those. Or you could have 4 plus 2, etc. Okay, those are all different partitions of the number 10, and guess how many ways there are to partition 10? 42. That's right, there are 42 ways. In the last couple of years, I showed you some graph theory kinds of things of seeing how numbers are connected to each other by making pictures. Maybe you've heard of a magic square, or it's kind of like a Sudoku kind of thing. But here's another one. This will probably be my last mathy thing. And that is that given 27 same-size cubes, like the arrangement of a Rubik's Cube, whose number values go from 1 to 27, it's a 3 by 3 by 3 kind of grid. You can get a 3 by 3 by 3 magic cube, which means that all of the columns and rows and diagonals, the numbers in those spaces, add up to 42. You can make one of those. And yeah, it adds up to 42 if you take all the columns, rows, and diagonals of this 3 by 3 by 3 grid and sum them up. So they call it not a magic square, but they call it a magic cube, and the answer for that is 42. One last math thing. I can explain this in a couple of different ways. One of them is that if you take the first 6 even numbers, 2 plus 4 plus 6 plus 8 plus 10 plus 12, that equals 42. That's kind of cool. But another way to say it is if you add up all the dots on 2 sets of dice. Does it make sense? Because you got 1 and 1 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 3. If you add up all the dots on there, you get 42 dots. So that would be the highest, well, it's not the highest roll you can get, but anyway, you add up all the dots on them, you get 42. I'm going to clear some stuff up here before I move on to some of the other things. Hang on. Okay, I give you a couple of Bible-y types of things. In Numbers 33, where they're reviewing the journey from Egypt to the Jordan, there are 42 places listed, 42 stops along the way. Now, if you head over to this one you may have already thought of, because you're a really smart guy, that in Jesus' genealogy in the book of Matthew, you know how Matthew breaks it up into Adam to Abraham. Is that right? Yeah. Or Abraham to David, David to captivity, and captivity to Jesus. Yeah, he groups it into groups of 14. 14 times 3 is 42. 42 also is the number of lines that you could get on the original Gutenberg Bible. You get 42 lines on a page. And you may also know that before there was the 39 articles, there was the 42 articles of the Church of England. That was largely the work of Thomas Cranmer, intended to summarize Anglican doctrine. If only they knew what they actually believed. That would be interesting. That was done under Edward VI, who was between Mary and Elizabeth. Is that correct? I think so, if I know my numbers correct. Going to some other religious things in Japan, the number 42 is considered to be an unlucky number because if you pronounce the numerals, the 4 and the 2, separately, which would be shi, ni, it sounds like the word dying in Japanese. It's like the Latin word mori. It doesn't mean good things there, so you want to avoid 42 if you're heading off to Japan. Another sports thing, which many of you are familiar with. There's a really great movie about Jackie Robinson. It was number 42. And there's a cool thing that goes on today in baseball. I think the last person to wear the number 42 in baseball was Manny, that Rivera, that like relief pitcher for the Yankees. When he retired, they retired the number 42. No one else is allowed to wear 42 except on Jackie Robinson Day, and everybody wears the number 42. I think that's a really cool nod to the guy. Yeah, players, managers, coaches, and umpires all wear 42. Now, goofy, geeky guy stuff. Number 1, Lewis Carroll, or Dodson, the writer of the Alice in Wonderland books. He was a mathematician, and he loved codes and tricks and gadgets and stuff like that. He put the number 42 in an awful lot of his writings. I won't list some of these things because you wouldn't understand it anyway. No knock on you. It's just this would take 3 minutes to explain it, and then it just wouldn't be that funny. Okay, so what it is he's got stuff in there like Rule 42 of the Queen's rules would have been something like everybody taller than a a building or something has to leave. Sorry, I'm looking around for all my notes here on this stuff. But he plugged in 42. He has Alice trying to do multiplication in like base 13. She can't do it. So it's pretty silly. So Dodson, he puts it in Alice in Wonderland, and then of course the one that's the most famous that a lot of the other allusions to 42 in pop culture is Doug Adams' book, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe. It's a book, it's a movie, it was goofy and weird. It was actually pretty stupid. But mathematicians and computer science guys, they think it's like the bomb because in there's a scene where these people come and they built this big computer and they want to ask it what is the answer to life, the universe, and everything. And the computer's like, let me think about that. That's going to take a while. Come back in like 14 million years. And they're like, really? And they're like, yeah. And so they come back in 14 million years and they ask the question again. He says, oh, I figured it out. The answer is 42. And they're like, 42? He's like, yeah, it was actually pretty hard because you never really told me what the question was. I'll build a computer that will help find that question, the ultimate question that you should have asked, but it's going to take another 10 million years. So it's just this really stupid thing. But computer programmers have stuck it in all over the place. And then sci-fi shows have used the number in a bunch of places too. It's actually fairly ridiculous how many places this stuff shows up. So for instance, if you do a TIFF, it's a tagged image file format. The second 16-bit word of every file is 42. An arbitrary but carefully chosen number that further identifies it as a TIFF file. So it's just left in there as a marker to the computer to read that it is a certain type of image file. Then it's also been put into in the military data recording standards, the hex value in ASCII 2. 42 is used as a magic number to identify directory blocks. The ASCII code 42 is for the asterisk symbol, which is a wildcard for everything. It's just like a placeholder. So they've done that. Microsoft, Windows domain defaults, the password expiration defaults every 42 days. I'm sure that's not a coincidence. And then recently a new object was found in January 2014 or 2004. Asteroid 2001 DA42 was given the permanent name 25924 Douglas Adams for the number 42 thing. Silly, but there it is. People are fascinated by the number 42 as far as like that kind of stuff goes. So if you watch a lot of sci-fi, you're going to see it pop up in Stargate. You're going to see it pop up in Star Wars. A festival of ancestors on planet Pasana is held every 42 years. The film was released in 2019, which was 42 years after the original Star Wars film in 1977. Probably pretty meaningless, but there it is. It's in X-Files. Fox Mulder's apartment number is 42. It's in Finding Nemo. It's in lots and lots and lots of places. But in one show that I actually liked a lot was Lost, where there's a plane crash on an island and there's some weird stuff that goes on. 42 is one of the main numbers that they use over and over and over again. They use a series of numbers. It's like 3, 5, 15, 16, 23, and 42. They use it in like lottery tickets and on serial numbers and phone numbers and addresses and stuff. You add up all those up, it adds up to 108, which is another interesting number in the movie or in the show Lost. So 42 pops up. It's a little Easter egg that they put all over the place in Lost. I just have a couple others, get some sciencey things done here, and let me switch some stuff out. Okay, molybdenum, periodic table of the elements number 42. It's like a lot of metals in the middle of the periodic chart. It's a silvery metal. It has quite a lot of industrial uses. This book says molybdenum is a metal of industry through and through. Its main applications are in steel alloys, where it gives great strength and heat resistance, most notably to M-series high-speed tool steels. M for molybdenum. Pure molybdenum is much less common. It is used in lubricants, grease that prevents lockup at high temperatures and pressures. But if it gets above 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, it's limited in its use because it starts to oxidize, and it does so very rapidly. So molybdenum, which can come in a crystal form, or it's this light gray stuff that gets used in industry. And then the last one, as most people know, determined by the Babylonians, that in 79 years, Mars orbits the sun exactly 42 times. I know. You're welcome. Have a happy birthday. I hope you enjoy the rest of your vacation. It's really nice that you get one of those. And hopefully you don't get too many more gray hairs. But if you do, you deserve it. All right. Happy birthday, Jeff.